This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. Hi, how are you? I sincerely hope that your day's got off to a good start. My day has, thankfully. I'm bearing up well today as I record this episode on Monday, the 11th of September. Yesterday, I played my first round of golf since my car accident last November, so some 291 days later, finally. And I fully expected today to be quite sore, but thankfully, I'm feeling pretty good. I won't lie, it's been a tough recovery with many setbacks, and I did wonder at times if I'd hit a ball this year or even in the future. But thankfully, that's now in the past. And for those that have tuned in before or follow my social media, cold water come ice baths have been at the forefront of my recovery, where at the time of recording this, I'm now up to 214 days consecutively freezing my nuts off, be it using cold baths, showers, open water swimming in the sea or lakes as my methods, as well as an ice bath which I've recently purchased with a cooler system. So why am I mentioning this? Well, there are some links to today's podcast episode, as we'll be looking again at the commitment measure of mental toughness, where we consider goal setting, and this time we look at achievement goal theories and how they may help or hinder you or your athletes. And goal setting has definitely been top of mind for myself on a day-to-day level and when I had setbacks along the way. So then, what I mean by achievement goal theories? Well, essentially, what they are based on is how individuals judge their own ability, so our perceptions of competence, and how we define what success is. Take a striker in football. He or she may have a match at the weekend, and they go on to set themselves goals based on how they see success, such as scoring a goal, contributing with an assist for the team, and then likely the team winning the match. These are common goals for strikers, right? And what's wrong with that? Well, you'll find out soon. How we view success can help us better understand our motivational processes. So the striker, when viewing the match, has an unsatisfied need. Perhaps they haven't scored for 3 games, and this creates tension. And then it drives the footballer to search for goals. And if they're retained, well, it's going to satisfy that need. So, back to the striker. As I said, maybe they haven't scored for 3 games. Therefore, their internal sense of ability may have been lessened too, especially if they've seen a rival striker bang in a lot of goals in that period. In this case, they're going to be judging their past performances and their capacity to score or perform relative to other people. So, the way that we view our ability then goes on to underpin 2 different achievement goal states. You may have come across them before. We've got task and we've got ego involvement. So, task and ego involvement, these are key in how we view success. When you consider the striker here, maybe this striker gains a sense of competence from playing well and demonstrating superior performances in relation to other people. I've seen it before with a client from a Premier League football club who played on loan in the Football League. They had a great spell, they were scoring goals, boatloads of goals, and they would comment on how well they were doing. Yet they'd be comparing themselves to their mates that they'd grown up with and who'd come through the academy and who were also on loan playing in the Football League. It's fair to say that this person's ego was involved in a big way. I've also witnessed the opposite as well many times, where people compare their poor achievements or form in comparison to friends who are doing well. And the player who would look at this from a mastery angle though, or a task angle, would see this very differently. Their sense of competence would come from improvements in mastering specific skills that actually goes on to help them perform well and score goals and make the assists. Perhaps it's making it very difficult for defenders by the quality of their movement. That's a task. So yeah, it's complex. As you'll likely be aware, these achievement goals, whether the task or ego involved goals, they're determined by a person's disposition and unconscious habits when it comes down to goal orientations, as well as the wider motivational climate. And what I mean by that is just the environment or the culture around them, which is created by coaches, teammates, parents, opponents, spectators, friends. They all play a big part. Research in sports psychology tells us that people with high levels of task orientation are associated with a wide range of benefits, from positive thinking, positive moods and emotions, to can-do behaviours, whereas high levels of ego orientation are associated with neutral or negative thinking, negative emotions and lower mood, especially, as I say, when task goals are ignored. And this makes a lot of sense. When we get into comparing ourselves, or my made-up word, comparisonitis, we don't feel great at all about ourselves, and we can fall into the trap of being too harsh on ourselves. So when we think about the environment or the culture in sports clubs, how do we actually create a mastery come task involved climate? How can coaches, teammates, parents all come together and drop the ego references? So here's a checklist to think about. Number 1, we've got improvement. Improvement should be talked about at an individual level, with no reference to teammates or opponents. 2, effort. Well, effort is focused on again at the individual level, with no shaming, no fear treatment to provoke a response, mentioning how another player did in comparison to the individual who maybe didn't give 100%. Actually spend time with them, understand their thought processes, educate them, and ask damn good questions. For example, if effort is in question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much effort did you put into that run when you burst into the box? And if they respond with a 6, that's your chance to ask, well, what would a 7, an 8 or a 9 have looked like? This means they start visualizing what they can do next time. They don't get sucked in to putting themselves down. They don't get sucked into focusing too much on a teammate or being shamed. Then, number 3, we've got cooperative learning. You know, what you could do as a coach is break larger groups into smaller subgroups. This is a useful way to understand individuals' motivations better, and it allows you more chances to focus on task or mastery related goals. Number 4, don't get sucked into talking about outcomes. Yep, that's right. Yes, I know winning's important, scoring goals or assists are important. However, scoring, winning, losing are strict no-nos if you want to build a task or a mastery mindset. Did you do better than Tanya today? Again, you know, this is a surefire way of building an egocentric goal setter. So don't get sucked into asking about others or comparing yourself with other people. Then we've got number 6, we've got favoritism. If you're a coach, be aware if you aren't respecting everyone, and you will likely have your reasons, even if they are subconscious. Be aware when you are getting sucked into this. Essentially, you're letting egos take over. Then we've got number 7. Why did you do that? How often do you hear that in a grumpy voice, be it from a coach or a parent, or from a teammate? You know what? When a mistake takes place, it's actually a common thing. After all, if you look at Erling Haaland, he's not a bad striker, I would say. Well, he actually doesn't score 7 times from 10 shots. That's right, you heard me right. 7 times he does not score from 10 shots. And he's one of the best around. So, say the striker shoots it wide when they should have crossed the ball. Is this a helpful thing to say? Why did you do that? In that harsh, cutting voice? Well, I'm not so sure. You'd be better saying, when this happened, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? And then the conversation will be a lot more constructive. Lastly, we've got number 8. We've got strikers who are in training. Perhaps they're practicing their shooting, and the worst performer is shamed. Is given a punishment. Get down there, do 10 press-ups. Now, again, this is ego-based punishment. It's not a great way of motivating the player. Fear is then going to play a large part in their psyche moving forwards. And this person isn't going to feel so great about themselves too, especially at that sort of subconscious level. So this whole thing about motivational climates, well, it is clear, as I said earlier, it's complex. Unconscious patterns of behaviour come into play. Rewards and punishments are dished out. Standards, expectations are threatened and remarked on. Interpersonal interactions, some good, some not so. Stress, pressure, and then individual values, they all play a part. The key again is being curious. It's being open-minded to raising your self-awareness. In this case, do the types of goals and conversations that you are having, are they task come mastery based or are they ego based? Make some notes, get a sheet of paper out and really consider this. Or get a camera on yourself when you're communicating. Good luck. Please do feel free to reach out to me should you want to chat about this further. And also, if you're a footballer, a coach or a parent interested in football or soccer, you may have heard me mention the Football Psychology Hub on last week's podcast. If you'd like to inquire and know more about it, please do feel free to email me. Get in touch, that's right. My email address is info@sport-excellence.co.uk. I'll gladly share more details with you. Have a great week in the meantime. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sport psychology resources. The Sport-Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.